every week, there's at least one wide receiver cornerback matchup we all look forward to watch. Whether it's Jalen Ramsey versus one of the top receivers, Jair Alexander locking down your favorite player, or Davante Adams routing up a premium corner, there's always something to look out for. Well, in the past 8 years or so, there have been some very exciting wide receiver cornerback matchups that we have been entertained by. But before I get into this video, guys, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated and helps me out more than you can see. Also, there's something I need to talk about, which is that my friend Mike Kendi and I have started a podcast called the JM Touchdown Show. Episodes come out just about every Friday, and clips will roll out by Monday or Tuesday. The link tree for that will be in the description below. And just one more disclaimer about this specific video. The clips I use may or may not be from the actual games themselves that I'm talking about because of copyright issues, so I'll just have to figure that out along the way, and if they aren't, I apologize. There's literally nothing I can do. But now, let's get right into a few of the best cornerback wide receiver matchups in the last 8 years. The first one I'm going to start with should come to the surprise of nobody, and that is Josh Norman and Odell Beckham Jr. back in Week 15 of the 2015 season. Going into this game, we expected a great matchup, given how the Panthers were doing that season and Odell being one of the top receivers in the world. But we got a lot more than what we expected. Less than 2 minutes into the game, Odell beat Norman deep, but dropped the ball, and Norman loved it and was talking trash immediately, to which Odell responded the next play by getting, quote, tangled up with Norman, and this started the beef for the rest of the game. They would continue to literally fight, actually fight, not as bad as the one fight you guys know I'm talking about, Cortland Finnegan, Andre Johnson, for the rest of the game, as both kept hitting each other aggressively and falling to the ground often. Maybe they were flopping, who knows. Odell was later flagged for a helmet-to-helmet hit, and Josh Norman stopped covering him for the rest of the first half, but would line up against him come the second half. Keep in mind, Josh Norman was dominating the matchup as Odell was catchless throughout the first half when covered by Norman. And even funnier was that after Josh stopped covering OBJ, Cortland Finnegan, who I just mentioned, lined up against him, who, like I said before, had fought Andre Johnson prior. Beckham finally got his first catches in the third quarter, and on one of them, he tried to turn Josh's heel in retaliation to him tackling him. Then, on a running play, Odell dove into Norman just cause, I don't know why, and flags flew for both players, but still somehow no ejections. And Josh Norman clearly didn't like Odell, as OBJ seemed to be handed everything, being a star wide receiver in a big market New York, while Josh was a 5th-round pick who had to fight for where he was to this point. And unsurprisingly, because of this situation, both had gone in media troubles before, like the Cam Newton fight with Norman. So that definitely did not help the beef, and fighting continued throughout the whole game. But with less than 2 minutes left, Odell beat Norman on a fade route for a game-tying touchdown, and would step over Josh Norman like AI and Tyronn Lue. However, Norman got the last laugh as the Panthers kicked a game-winning field goal, and Norman would talk about the situation after the game, while Odell wanted no part of it, especially the one-game suspension he was handed by Roger Goodell. Josh Norman shut down Odell on routes near the line of scrimmage, but downfield, Odell had the last laugh on the star corner. While guarding Odell on 22 of 47 pass plays, Josh allowed 4 catches on 6 targets for 30 yards and a touchdown, obviously with the 2 drops as well, which would have given Odell the better numbers in the story. The Panthers were also running zone a lot, so a good amount of times it wasn't Norman clearly manning up against Odell. So as for the winner of this, I'm probably going to say Norman, but due to the penalties on both players, and Josh not guarding him the full game, or in man coverage a lot, it's really up in the air. Another one which is kind of a joke is the DeAndre Hopkins joint practice matchup. Although I did say it was a joke, it really isn't, because there was some real beef and results that came from a Hard Knocks episode back on August 8th, 2015. Basically, the two were going at it during their joint practice, and Hopkins was doing great against a veteran. But he was then matched up against Chris Culver, who he beat on a hitch route but dropped the ball, and him and Hall had an exchange, where Hopkins said this.
What's wrong with you, boy? I'm a grown ass man, dog. Just like you. Well, we can box. I feel God, homie. I feel God. I feel God, boy. I feel God, boy. I feel God, boy. I'm just like you now. We but tell these boys I feel God now. I'm gonna slap the fuck out of you too.
And then DeAndre Hopkins proceeded to do this to him. Yup, he literally broke D'Angelo Hall's ankles and said, "I just finish it. I don't start that." Hopkins knew he could do whatever he wanted to the older Hall because he's just that dude. Not that D'Angelo isn't good, but he was closer to the end of his career and cannot handle the top receiver in the league. And now for my third and fourth one, it's going to sound stupid, but it's Jalen Ramsey basically dominating any receiver he goes up against, specifically in his early years with Jacksonville. And the two receivers that he was guarding are DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham Jr. again. Week 16, 2016. Texans vs. Jaguars. Ramsey was a rookie and was ready to take on the biggest challenge yet, top receiver in the league, DeAndre Hopkins, who he'd already gone up against, but Hopkins had Tom Savage throwing him the ball instead of Brock Osweiler, a huge upgrade. Let's keep in mind, the first time they played in Week 10, Ramsey held him to 5 catches for 48 yards. A really good game for Ramsey there. As we all know, Hopkins is elite in nearly every category of the wide receiver position. Route running, jump balls, creating separation, basically everything. Ramsey forced incompletions on a 4th and goal 50-50 ball, short gains on 3rd downs with great tackles, and allowed a couple catches. Hopkins got bullied for only 5 catches and 46 yards. Another bad game for him. Now, his quarterback play was horrendous in Tom Savage and Brock Osweiler throughout the whole year, but still, Ramsey locked down Hopkins both games in his rookie year. I didn't stutter there, which is rare for me. That was just an emphasis. Whether it was hard hits or pass breakups, Hopkins cannot get a hold of the ball all game. Jalen Ramsey also had faced off against a prime Odell Beckham Jr. 3 years later, when the Giants and Jaguars played in Week 1 of 2018. The second appearance for both players on this list. Great start to the season, let me say. And this was prime Odell, top of the world, all-star wide receiver who nobody could stop. But he was coming off a terrible ankle injury. Also, a huge contract extension. So this was the first look at OBJ in a while after the injury and the contract. Jalen was the best cornerback in the league already. Odell said if he isn't 1A, he's 1B. So these two big egos are going to be insane to examine, and both knew there was a show to be provided to the fans. At first, it seemed as if Odell was winning the battle, but Eli was overthrowing him a good bit on all types of routes. On the day, he caught 11 passes for 111 yards, but on Ramsey, he caught 5 catches for 58 yards and drew a pass interference on Jalen for another 21. There was one route where Odell absolutely crossed Ramsey, but like I said in my intro, due to copyright, I don't know if I'll be able to find the exact play, and if I do while editing this, I'll laugh at myself in a text box somewhere on the screen. This seems to be the only example of a wide receiver winning the matchup in a real game, because obviously Hopkins murdered D'Angelo Hall in a joint practice. So, I'm gonna have to give the only wide receiver win in a game to Odell, because Ramsey and Josh Norman locked down everyone else. These are just a few of them though, and funny enough, it had a lot of the same players in Jalen Ramsey, Odell, DeAndre Hopkins, and Josh Norman. I mean, Norman was only on here once, but you know what I mean. There were other good ones though in the past. Calvin Johnson and Pat Pete, Darrelle Revis, all of 2009, especially with Randy Moss. It also could be Ramsey versus DK or Davante in the playoffs. Like I said, Revis versus anyone, 2009, or anyone Stephon Gilmore went up against in his Defensive Player of the Year season, or this last year with Cooper Kupp routing up every corner. No matter who or what it is, watching a wide receiver cornerback matchup is very entertaining to any type of fan. And with all that being said, that is it for me, guys. Thank you for tuning into Fanatic Sports. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. All support is very much appreciated. Also, make sure you check me out on Instagram at FanaticSports25 and on TikTok and Twitter at Fanatic Sports, and those will be listed right here. This is Joe from Fanatic Sports with my signature football flip, signing off.